Hi, I'm Tom Smothers.
And I'm Dick Smothers, and welcome to the original Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour.
These shows were taped at Television City in Hollywood during the late 60s. This comedy hour you're about to see was scheduled to air April 13th, 1969. But if you don't remember seeing it before, it may be because CBS never, ever aired this show.
That's right. And our guests on the show that was never aired were Laugh-In's Dan Rowan, comedian David Steinberg, and singer Nancy Wilson. This comedy hour actually is one of my most memorable shows.
In the late 1960s, American television looked very different from what we see today. Most programs were safe, polite, and carefully controlled. Networks avoided topics that could upset viewers or create political arguments. At that time, three major television networks dominated the industry: CBS, NBC, and ABC. These networks decided what millions of Americans watched every evening. Family shows, variety programs, and westerns were very popular. Programs like The Ed Sullivan Show and Bonanza attracted large audiences and followed strict rules about what could be shown on television. However, the world outside television was changing quickly. The Vietnam War was causing protests across the country, and many young people were speaking out against political decisions. College campuses were full of debates about war, civil rights, and freedom of speech. Television executives realized that younger audiences wanted something different. They needed a program that could attract this new generation of viewers without causing major controversy. This was the environment in which the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour was created. At first, the show looked like a normal comedy and music variety program. The hosts were two brothers, Tom and Dick Smothers, who used a simple comedy style where one brother acted smart and the other acted a bit foolish. Their jokes were friendly and easy for audiences to understand. CBS believed the show would simply entertain viewers on Sunday nights. But behind the scenes, Tom Smothers had bigger plans. He believed television should talk about real issues and not just provide light entertainment. What began as a normal variety show slowly became something much more daring, eventually leading to one of the biggest censorship battles in television history. As the first season of the show aired in 1967, the format seemed familiar to viewers. Each episode included musical performances, comedy sketches, and conversations between the brothers. At first, everything followed the same safe structure used by other variety shows. However, Tom Smothers slowly began to introduce ideas that reflected the growing social changes in the United States. His jokes began to touch on subjects such as war, politics, and social inequality. These ideas were often hidden inside humor, which allowed the show to push boundaries without immediately causing problems with the network. Dick Smothers often played the calmer role, trying to balance Tom's more serious comments with lighter humor. This balance helped the show maintain its popularity with audiences who might otherwise have been uncomfortable with political discussions. Another important part of the show was the choice of musical guests. The program invited many artists who were connected to the growing protest culture of the time. Folk singer Pete Seeger appeared on the show, along with performers such as Harry Belafonte and Joan Baez. Rock bands like Jefferson Airplane and The Who also performed. Many of their songs included messages about peace, civil rights, and social change. For young viewers, the show felt honest and exciting because it reflected the issues they cared about. College students began to see the program as one of the few places on television where their voices were being represented. As a result, the show quickly gained a loyal following among younger audiences. Ratings began to rise, and CBS enjoyed the success. However, not everyone was happy with the direction the program was taking. Some viewers, especially in more conservative areas of the country, believed the show was becoming too political for family television as the show became more popular. Tensions between the Smothers Brothers and CBS executives began to grow. The network had strict rules about censorship and expected producers to follow them carefully. Scripts were supposed to be submitted in advance, so the network could review every joke and every performance. But Tom Smothers often ignored these rules. He believed the network was trying to limit creative expression and prevent honest discussion about important topics. As a result, some episodes were delivered very late, sometimes only hours before they were scheduled to air. This made it difficult for CBS to review the content in time. In response, the network began to demand that episodes be submitted at least 10 days before broadcast. The conflict became even more serious when the show hired younger writers who were interested in political satire. Among them were future comedy stars like Steve Martin and Mason Williams. Their writing brought a sharper and more daring tone to the show. Comedy sketches began to include fictional debates about government policies, religion, and civil rights. Another controversial element came from comedian Pat Paulson, who appeared regularly with satirical speeches pretending to run for president. His jokes mocked political promises and government decisions in ways that many viewers found hilarious, but some politicians found embarrassing. At the same time, comedian David Steinberg began performing comedy segments that looked like religious sermons but contained modern political commentary. These performances made fun of powerful institutions and challenged traditional authority. For many young viewers, this style of humor was exciting and fresh. But for CBS executives, the show was becoming increasingly difficult to control. Complaints from viewers and local television stations began to arrive more frequently. Some sponsors also started to worry that their advertisements might appear next to controversial content. By the late 1960s, the conflict between the show's creators and the network had reached a breaking point. CBS executives believed the Smothers Brothers were ignoring their responsibilities and creating unnecessary controversy. Meanwhile, Tom Smothers felt that the network was trying to silence important conversations about war and freedom of speech. The situation became even more tense when David Steinberg returned to perform another sermon-style comedy segment in early 1969. CBS had already warned the show that Steinberg performances were risky and could anger many viewers. Despite this warning, Tom Smothers allowed him to appear again. The performance took place on a stage designed to look like a church. Steinberg appeared dressed as a religious figure and began telling a story that connected a biblical event with modern politics. During the performance, he compared the story of Moses leading his people to freedom with young Americans protesting the Vietnam War. At one point, he delivered a line that seemed to directly criticize the American president and government policies. The studio audience reacted with applause, but CBS executives were shocked when they watched the tape. To them, the segment crossed a line that television had never allowed before. When the episode was sent to CBS for review, the network immediately blocked it. Executives demanded that the entire Steinberg segment be removed before the episode could air. Tom Smothers refused to make the change, arguing that the performance was an important example of free speech. The disagreement quickly turned into a major conflict between the show's creators and the network leadership. Only a few days later, CBS made a dramatic decision that shocked both viewers and people inside the television industry. In April 1969, the network canceled the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. The cancellation happened suddenly, without a public explanation or farewell episode. CBS claimed that the show had repeatedly violated its production deadlines by delivering episodes too late for review. However, Tom Smothers strongly disagreed with this explanation. He argued that the network was using the deadline issue as an excuse to remove a show that had become politically uncomfortable. The cancellation ended one of the most popular and controversial programs on television. For Tom and Dick Smothers, the decision had serious consequences. Television networks began to see them as risky performers who might cause trouble with sponsors or executives. As a result, many opportunities in national television disappeared almost immediately. Although the brothers continued performing in live shows and small venues, their presence on major television programs was limited for many years. At the same time, the cancellation started a legal battle between the Smothers Brothers and CBS. The comedians believed the network had violated their contract by canceling the program without proper justification. The lawsuit continued for several years and attracted attention across the entertainment industry. Finally, in 1973, a court ruled in favor of the Smothers Brothers. CBS was ordered to pay them more than $770,000 for breaking the agreement. Although the brothers won the case, the victory did not fully restore their television careers. The show that had once attracted millions of viewers was gone, and the television landscape had already begun to change. Despite its short run, the influence of the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour continued to grow in the years that followed. Many television writers and producers later said the show helped inspire a new style of comedy that mixed humor with political commentary. One person who openly praised the program was television producer Lorne Michaels, who later created the famous comedy show Saturday Night Live. Michaels once said that without the example set by the Smothers Brothers, his own show might never have existed. The idea that comedy could openly discuss politics, social issues, and cultural change became more common in the decades after cancellation. Over time, the Smothers Brothers began to receive recognition for their role in expanding creative freedom on television. In 2008, Tom Smothers received an honorary Emmy Award in recognition of the show's historical importance. A few years later, both brothers were inducted into the Television Academy Hall of Fame. Their story also became part of discussions about freedom of expression in American media. Historians and journalists began to see the cancellation of the show as an example of how powerful institutions sometimes try to control artistic voices. The rediscovery of old episodes in archives and online platforms has helped introduce the program to younger audiences who were not alive during the 1960s. Today, clips from the show can easily be found on video sharing platforms, where viewers often react with surprise at how bold the comedy was for its time. What once seemed shocking and controversial now looks like an early example of the kind of political satire that is common in modern television. In the end, the story of the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour is more than just a story of a canceled television show. It represents a moment when entertainment collided with politics, culture, and freedom of speech. The conflict between the Smothers Brothers and CBS revealed how difficult it can be for artists to challenge powerful institutions. At the same time, it showed that audiences often appreciate honesty and courage, even when the topics are uncomfortable. The show lasted only a few years, but its influence has lasted for decades. Many modern comedians continue to use humor as a way to question authority and discuss serious issues with their audiences. When people look back at the event of 1969, they often see the cancellation not as the end of the show's impact, but as the beginning of a new era in television comedy. The Smothers Brothers proved that comedy could be more than simple entertainment. It could also be a powerful tool for conversation, criticism, and social change. Today, their legacy remains an important chapter in the history of television and free expression. Another important reason the story of the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour continues to attract attention today is because it represents a turning point in how television treated controversial ideas. During the early years of television, networks believed their main responsibility was to avoid upsetting viewers. Programs were designed to be safe for families watching together in their living rooms. Political criticism, especially criticism directed toward government leaders, was considered risky and often unacceptable. The Smothers Brothers challenged this idea by proving that audiences were willing to watch entertainment that discussed real issues. Their show demonstrated that comedy could act as a mirror of society, reflecting the fears, frustrations, and hopes of ordinary people. When the program included jokes about war or government policies, it allowed viewers to laugh while also thinking about serious problems. This mixture of humor and social commentary later became a powerful tool used by many other comedians. Even talk shows and late-night programs eventually adopted similar approaches. In many ways, the Smothers Brothers were experimenting with a format that had not yet been fully accepted by television executives. Because they were among the first to attempt this kind of comedy on national television, they faced stronger resistance than later performers. However, the reactions to their show helped prove that audiences were ready for a more open style of entertainment. Instead of destroying the idea of political comedy, the cancellation actually made people more curious about it. Over time, networks began to understand that controversy could sometimes create more interest rather than less. This slow shift in thinking helped shape the modern television landscape, where political satire is now a common and respected form of entertainment. The personal legacy of Tom and Dick Smothers also became clearer as the years went by. Although they experienced professional setbacks after cancellation, they never completely disappeared from the public eye. The brothers continued touring together, performing their classic comedy routines for loyal fans. Their live shows often included stories about their experiences in television and the unusual events that led to the end of their famous program. Many audience members appreciated hearing these stories directly from the people who had lived through them. Over time, the Smothers Brothers also appeared in documentaries and interviews where they discussed the importance of artistic freedom. Tom Smothers, in particular, remained passionate about defending the right of comedians and artists to speak openly about political issues. He often explained that comedy should not be limited by fear of controversy. Instead, he believed humor could help society examine its own problems in a creative and less threatening way. Dick Smothers, while sometimes more cautious in his views, also recognized the historical importance of their work. Together, the brothers slowly regained respect within the entertainment industry. By the early 2000s, many people no longer remember them mainly for the controversy, but for the impact their show had on television history. Awards and honors began to arrive, recognizing their contribution to comedy and cultural discussion. These moments of recognition helped restore the reputation that had once been damaged by the sudden cancellation of their show. One of the most fascinating aspects of the story is how technology helped revive interest in the show decades later. When the program originally aired in the 1960s, television broadcasts were difficult to preserve. Many episodes were recorded on tapes that were later erased or stored in archives where few people could access them. However, as digital technology improved in the 21st century, old recordings began to resurface. Fans who had saved copies on VHS tapes started converting them into digital files. Soon, clips from the show began appearing online, where they could be watched by millions of people around the world. Social media platforms played an important role in spreading these rediscovered moments. Younger viewers who had never heard of the Smothers Brothers suddenly encountered short video clips that looked surprisingly modern. The humor, although created decades earlier, often felt relevant to contemporary political discussions. Some of the jokes about political promises, government decisions, and public frustrations sounded very similar to debates happening today. Because of this, the show found a new audience among internet users who appreciated its bold and thoughtful style. What once existed only as a piece of television history began to live again as online content shared across many platforms. This unexpected revival helped remind people how influential the show had been. It also demonstrated that creative work can survive long after the circumstances that once tried to silence it. Looking back now, historians often describe the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour as one of the most important programs in the development of modern television comedy. While it only remained on the air for a few seasons, its influence extended far beyond its original broadcast. The show helped challenge the belief that entertainment must always avoid difficult topics. Instead, it showed that humor could become a powerful way to question authority and encourage public discussion. Many comedians who came later built their careers on ideas that the Smothers Brothers had already explored. Political satire programs, late-night comedy monologues, and comedic news shows all carry elements of the style that the brothers helped introduce. Their willingness to take risks also inspired writers, performers, and producers to defend their creative independence. In this way, the show became more than just a television program. It became a symbol of the ongoing struggle between artistic freedom and institutional control. The conflict with CBS revealed how difficult it can be for creative voices to operate within large corporate systems. Yet it also proved that bold ideas can